All right, welcome everybody. First of all, I'd like to welcome, I'd like to thank, first of all, Eitz Chaim congregation for letting us, inviting us over here, and also like to welcome all our Torah Anytime listeners and viewers. Tonight we're going to be speaking about, B'ezrat Hashem, the Chag of Sukkot. Sukkot, there's a lot of different aspects of it that we're going to try to bring clarity to. Number one, it says that Sukkot is Chag Simchatenu, which means it's a time of our happiness. So if we have a bunch of different months, a bunch of different holidays. The holiday of Sukkot is known for a holiday of happiness. Now the obvious question is what does this have to do with happiness over any other holidays that we had? We had Purim, for example. Wouldn't Purim be a better idea for a holiday of happiness? We got saved physically. And if you want to say, okay, no, maybe not, what about Hanukkah? Hanukkah, we got saved spiritually. Let that be our happy. Or you could say Pesach. Pesach is a time where we got freed from slavery. That's a time for be happy. Shavuot, we got the Torah. Why is it specifically the holiday of Sukkot that we are feeling the Zman Simchatenu? What does this have to do with happiness? Another thing is, it's a very interesting mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that I've heard somebody, I forgot who it was, or to be honest, I might have said it myself and don't remember, and I think somebody else said it, but to call it the Kuchi Kuchi Ku mitzvah, which means it's like a mitzvah. What happens if you're in a sukkah and it's raining? Oh, no problem. You could go inside, you don't have to use a sukkah. What happens if it's so hot that you can't stand in it, like really boiling hot? You don't have to go inside. Yeah? It's so mitzvah patur min sukkah. If you're in pain and agony and you're not able to sit there, you're patur from the sukkah. That's why rain, you're patur.
What about if it's freezing?
Freezing over here doesn't count the freezing. I'm talking about like people sit with coats in the. I remember when I was younger, I used to sit with coats in the sukkah before global warming. Global warming, what?
Freezing doesn't count, but boiling.
In a sense, I mean, listen, if it's 40 degrees below, you're not going to go. If you live in Alaska, wherever it is now at 40 degrees, you can physically live in the sukkah. So the question is what? There's no other mitzvah where it's like, oh, it's too hot, it's too uncomfortable. Don't worry about it. It's like imagine like a guy wakes up in the morning and be like, oh, it's so cold outside. I don't want to go to daven. I don't want to go to pray. I'll be like, oh, you're too cold. It's okay. Don't worry about it. A girl comes out and be like, it's 120 degrees, and she's like in Arizona in the middle of winter, in the middle of the summer, and she's like, you know what? It's so hot. I can't be tzniut. It's too hot. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's like, where is this come into Judaism? Where we'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. You're not comfortable in the sukkah. Don't worry about it. Just no problem. It's a very odd thing that's not connected to Judaism. Everything in Judaism you have to do regardless of how it is, if it's hard on you or if it's easy on you. Come sukkah and be like, don't worry about it. You're okay whichever way you are. So, and obviously you have to speak to a rabbi. I don't want to get people don't be like, oh, there's a mosquito here. I'm done. I'm inside. Right? You can't just announce on yourself on where you actually think the mitzvah sukkah does not apply to you. So. And then other question that I want to also to speak about is at the end of Sukkot we do Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah is a time where we dance with the Torah, which we're thanking God that we got the Torah. The obvious question is that what is it doing over here? We got the Torah back in Shavuot. Why do we dance over there? Why are we waiting all the way till Sukkot, till the end of Sukkot, to actually go and dance with the Torah? So we'll try to answer those questions in the first part of the shiur, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so now. One of the reasons that we go to Sukkot, we use a sukkah on Sukkot, is because of the Sukkot that Yaakov did for his animals. He built them these sort of tents. So we also go into these types of tents. And it says in Yaakov he made a permanent dwelling place and he made a temporary dwelling place. His permanent dwelling place was, the Targum Yonasan explains that it was the Bet Midrash, which means he used his money for the right things. He saw what was really worth. He invested in permanent structure. That was his Bet Midrash. That's where he learned Torah. That's where he prayed. That's where he did all these things. For his temporary possessions, which things that stay only a short period of time, his animals, his other things that he had, was the temporary huts. So that's why we are also, one of the reasons why we go into Sukkot because of that. Now obviously we'll explain that. There was once a wealthy person who came over to the Chafetz Chaim, and he said to the Chafetz Chaim lived bare minimum. I don't know if you ever, you look at, I should have brought this picture. I have a picture in my house of Reb Steinman. Reb Steinman is one of the holiest, biggest rabbis he has like money coming in through his hands, like millions and millions of dollars that people give him money to give it to charity. You see how this guy lives? The simplest of the simple. I have a picture in my house. I always save it up to put it in my sukkah. It's a picture of him sitting on a mattress, an Israeli mattress, by the way. There's no coils, right? Israeli mattress, you could literally cut it out and use it as a sponge. And then you could put it back in, it would look exactly the same.
Not gonna lie, they're very comfortable.
They're pretty good.
They're really good.
So,
no springs, but they're awesome.
It's literally like a sponge. You could squeeze it, and it's about this thick. At least that's when I was there. And you see over there, he's sitting in his bed, he's recording his shiur, and he's sitting on this, like, his thin mattress, and his back is like this wooden chair that's laying down on his bed to support his back. He's not even sitting, he's sitting on his bed against a wooden chair, being recorded for shiur Torah. And this is a guy who has millions and millions of dollars go through his hand for charity. People have come and be like, okay, let's fix this place up. And he's like, no, why are we fixing anything up? This is, somebody came to the Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim also lived very, very simple. And they said, Rabbi, where's all your furniture? So the rabbi goes back to this wealthy person. He's like, where's all your furniture? And he's like, in my house. I am here visiting. I'm touring. I'm traveling. I don't take my furniture when I travel. So the Chavetz Chaim answered back, says, I'm also traveling. He says, I have furniture in the next world. I'm depositing furniture all the time into the next world. And when I get there, I'll have a very, very big mansion. He says, this whole world is temporary. Well, I'm going to start building all these things and fancy things. By the end of the day, 70, 80 years, 100 years, you're done. It's all temporary. So the one thing that we learn from the Sukkah over here, and if you look at, is that life is temporary. Life is temporary. We literally go out of our physical home. We go into our temporary home to put us in our mind, just like Yaakov Avinu had a temporary home for his possessions, so too we are going into our temporary home to realize that this life is temporary. If you have this mindset that you're thinking that this life is temporary, then you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. Bad things happen. All right, what's the big deal? It's all temporary. It's 7 days we're here, 7 days we're back inside. This is not. So it doesn't. Sukkah, something falls. You're not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I have to call the contractor now. I have to go this. No, it's 7 days. You come out. You're finished with it. If you're thinking about life becomes so much happier. Things go so much easier. It'd be like, all right, it's not such a problem. Don't sweat the small stuff. Comes Sukkot and says, this world is temporary. That's number one. Number two is also, it shows you emunah. Literally, you go outside and you live in a tent for 7 days. What's what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to sleep in the tent, eat in the tent, do everything in the tent, the Sukkah. You're supposed to do everything in that. This also brings you to emunah, knowing that everything comes from God. So this is another thing. Once you know that everything comes from God, once you know that everything is temporary, you'll live a happier life. You'll live, your life will be much easier, much happier. Now we see over here that the goal of here is to be happy for where you are. When are you happy when you are? When you realize that everything is temporary. Comes the Torah and says, let's say it's raining, it's cold, whatever it is, you're not allowed to be there. If you're going to be in the Sukkah and you're not happy, that means you're missing the whole point. You're missing the whole point of the Sukkah is to be happy in the Sukkah. You have to be happy over here. If you're missing the whole point, go inside, you're missing it. I'm not poskening. If someone's not happy, you should go inside. I don't want to get anybody the wrong idea. But the idea is to be happy, and that's why wherever you are, you're supposed to be happy. You're on the road, you can't be in the sukkah, so you can't do it. So you're not fulfilling the mitzvah. So that's what Sukkot is telling you. Sukkot is telling you that this world is a temporary world. There was once a story. There was a big rabbi who he went and he had a student that was very sick and was about to pass away. And the student had 9 daughters. The student goes over to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, can you do me a favor? I have 9 daughters. Can you marry them all for me? And that's not like, all right, I'll do that next Tuesday. It's like a lifelong mission. So the rabbi says, fine, you know what? I'll do it. I'll marry them off, but I have one condition. He says, when you get into the next world, I have a bunch of questions of what's going on in this world, right? The Jews are having a very hard time, and things are going very hard. Can you please, here's the list of my questions. When you get up to the next world, come back to me and tell me all the answers. So the student said, fine, no problem. You have a deal. So the rabbi goes and he marries off 1 daughter, 2 daughters, 3 daughters. He marries off at the end all 9 daughters. Not coming to his dream, not coming to him once to give him anything. Finally, after he married his 9th daughter, he comes over to him and he says, into the dream, he says, hey, listen, Rabbi, I want to thank you very much for all the work that you've done, that you married off all my 9 daughters. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So the rabbi says, listen, I held up my end of the deal. I married off your daughters. Where's my answers to all my questions? So the student tells the rabbi, says, what can I tell you, Rabbi? He says, down here in this world, you don't have any answers. Up here in our world, we don't have any questions. Your questions that you gave me are not even questions. I don't even know how to answer it. It's obvious why everything has happened. It's obvious why these bad things are specifically happening to these people. Everything makes perfect sense over here. It's not even a question up here. But you don't have the answers. Someone asked me a very interesting question today. She sent me a question, and she said, how is it, there's some people that die such brutal deaths, beheading, torture. Is there anything that we can do to prevent, first of all, she asked, why does this happen? Is it for a reason? And number 2, is there anything that we can do to prevent, God forbid, to get that type of situation?
What type?
Beheading, like a brutal death. So I said, first of all, number 1, everything happens for a reason. Not always do we know the reasons, and many times we don't know the reason, but everything for sure happens for a reason. It could be in this life, it could be a reason for this lifetime, it could be a reason for a previous lifetime. It could be something totally, but one thing we know for sure, there's a reason for everything. Now, to say what you can do to prevent it, that I can't tell you. But there's one thing that you can do, and that's always very simple. Is you do tshuva, you come back to God, you do what you're supposed to do, and then things will happen the way that it's supposed to, that it should happen. But we have to know that there's a reason for everything. Now, there is a very interesting. So that is why we're going to be happy in a physical sense, right? Why are we happy in a physical sense? Because the physical world is a temporary world, just like the sukkah is a temporary world, a temporary abode. Just so too our life is a temporary world. Now we're going up to the next level. Next level is more of the spiritual side. The Ben Ish Chai, in the Ben Ish Chai Haggadah on Pesach, brings down a very interesting. He brings the most amazing parables, mishalim. So he brings this amazing mashal parable, and he says like this, and he says, yeah.
These mashals and parables, where do they come from originally? Like they make it up themselves?
Yeah, they could make it up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. It's like a story that you could learn something from out of it.
Oh, so Mishalim aren't like from Ruach HaKodesh?
No, not necessarily. But there are. If you want to say there are certain, Sfarim that were written with Ruach HaKodesh, and it's all based on the Mashal and things like that. But in general, when you have the later days.
I'm not talking about Mishalim. Midrashim.
Midrashim, no. It's, yeah. That's Torah. That's Torah. Yeah. So now, Mishalim is just like a story, a parable that comes out to learn an Mishal, a lesson for it. So now that you have so listen to this. So there was once a person who was a man who was handsome, had the money, had everything going for him. He had everything. It was an amazing personality, amazing business, amazing in all aspects. And he ended up marrying an amazing woman, and their life was just amazing. And then they woke up. No, I was kidding. So, but what happened was they got married, and then he finds out, it was unfortunate, but he found out that his new wife was suffering from emotional illnesses. And she got into these manic depressive modes where she would get really, really depressed. And so when she was so depressed, she was a danger not only to herself, but also to people around her. So he had to go, and he had to, a few months after the wedding, he had to start sleeping in a different room and lock the room, so that she doesn't do anything to him, or she doesn't do, or whatever, or God forbid do anything to her and him. So one morning he wakes up, and to his horror, she committed suicide. She committed suicide, and the cops are swarming the place. And what do they think? They see a guy over here, a good-looking guy and a good-looking girl, and he says, you know what? Must be that he killed her. So you know what? They put him in jail. They locked him up, put him in jail. And this guy's sitting in jail, and he's sitting over there. He's like, like, how do I prove it that I didn't do anything? Like, she was crazy. There was nothing I could do. I had to.
Isn't it guilty until proven? Like, what was the evidence, even if you didn't?
This is in time when there was kings and princesses. This is not the democracy. So he goes and he says, and he's sitting in jail. He doesn't know what to do. And he goes in. A few weeks go by, and suddenly the king sends him a proposition. And he says, and he tells him like this: listen, he says, you could come out of jail if and only if you marry my daughter, the princess. So or you could sit and rot in jail for the rest of your life. So he's like, it doesn't seem like much of an ultimatum to me. I guess I'll marry the princess. But then he's like thinking, wait a minute, what's wrong with this person? She must be like a cripple. She must be like, some deformed or whatever it is. Who knows what I'm getting into? And he says, but what other choice do I have? Sit and rot in jail? So he says, fine. You know what? I'll go. I'll marry the princess. He goes, and they dress him up, and they bring him straight to the shidduchim back then. It wasn't let's meet, let's see if you get it. It was not to get along. You guys are getting married. That's it. They get married right away, straight to the chuppah. They go into the wedding, and he looks at his bride to be, and he's inspecting her. He's like, where's her deformities? And she sees she's a very pretty girl. And he's like, uh-oh, so it's like now he's like, maybe there's something. He says, and then my worst case scenario is that not only she'll look good outside, but she has the same issue as my last wife, which means she has some sort of illness inside. And he looks and he can't find anything. She had good midot. She had, she was beautiful. She had good manners. She had, very refined, very educated. And he's like, that's it, my worst nightmare. It's marriage number one all over again. She's probably crazy in the head, and that's what I have to deal with. So he goes and they get married. They get married, and the next night, the next morning, she wakes up and she brings her new groom, her new husband, a nice fresh cup of coffee. He takes the coffee, he looks at it, and he spills it right on the floor. She doesn't say a word like a good wife. She takes it. I'm joking. She takes it and she says, okay, maybe he saw a speck of dirt in it or something. Let me go. And she filled him up a new cup of coffee. He takes the coffee from her again, and this time throws it on the floor, shatters it all into things. Well, so like a good wife, she goes and she cleans it up without saying a word. and she sweeps it up, she sweeps everything, and she says, okay, maybe let me take coffee from my father's table, the king's table, the best coffee in town. So she goes to the king's coffee, and she pours him a nice cup of nice steaming, fresh brewed coffee, and she brings it over to him, and he takes the coffee, he looks at it, and he spills it all over her dress. And she's not saying a word, she just leaves. And this whole time this maid is looking at, the maid of the king is looking, it's like, I can't deal with this. This guy just came out of prison, and now look what he's doing to the daughter. She says, that's it, I have enough, I'm going straight to the king. So she says, she goes to the king and she says, listen, this is what he did. So the king says, after all that I did to him, that's how he treated my daughter, bring him in. They bring him in, and the king says, listen, what do you think your punishment should be? He's like, this is a chutzpah. What are you doing over here? I give you everything. I take you out. I put you into my home, make you my son-in-law, and this is how you repay my daughter. This is what you're doing. So the guy said, listen, he says, my dear king and my father-in-law, he says, please hear me out. After you hear me out, you can decide if you want to punish me or not. He says, when you came and you told me that I have to marry your daughter in order to get out of prison, I figured there must be something wrong with her. Why else? There was no nobleman. There's no prince. And there were no people that knights in shining armor that could have taken her. You had to go get a guy in prison like me. Must be there was something wrong with her, and that's why you have to come with me. So I said, I want to know what I was dealing with. I saw that she was very beautiful, very refined, very educated, with amazing character traits. I was like, okay, my worst case scenario is that she's sick. Something is emotionally inside. So I wanted to see what her issues were, and I tried to get her angry. I tried to get her upset, but I saw that she couldn't. So now, my dear king, I have one request of you. He says, when you threw me a party, I didn't enjoy from it. I was nervous the whole time. I was looking about what issue am I going to deal with. But now that I see that you really gave me a perfect specimen of a human being, a perfect bride, he says, I ask you just one request. Can we throw another party? And this time, I'll be able to actually enjoy in this party because I know that I got an amazing, amazing bride. The king was very happy with the answer, and he says, you got it. And they threw out this beautiful banquet. Comes God. This is the nimshal. Comes God. We're in Egypt. Picture the scenario. We're in Egypt. A bunch of slaves to a bunch of people who are not good people, right? What do? They magic. They are immoral. They have all the sins. It says that not only that is that we sank to the bottom. We were at the 49th level of impurity. Comes all of a sudden, God sends Moses, and Moses comes to us and say, hey guys, listen. God decides that you are going to be the chosen nation, and you're going to get the Torah. So everyone's going to be like, what's wrong with this? It's like, why are you bringing it to us? We're the slaves. We're impure. We're on the 49th level. We're so bad. Why? There must be something wrong with it if you're bringing it to us. Says the Ben Ish Chai. So now the whole time the Jews are thinking, okay, what's going on over here? Something is wrong with this Torah. Why is it that we're getting us? That it's only coming to us? Why didn't it come to one of the big nations? So comes they were very scared. Why were they scared? They said, listen, this Torah is like fire. If you mess up, you probably get burnt and that's it, you're destroyed. Who knows it, before long, we'll just get destroyed completely with all our sins. But they said, listen, what ultimatum do we have? Let's get married. So they go and they get married. We get the Torah, comes Shavuot. But then comes the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf. The sin of the golden calf comes, God comes and says, okay, you guys sinned, but don't worry about it. You could do tshuva. And they were like, what's tshuva? So like, oh, you can repent. On Yom Kippur, you come and you can repent. And then what happens? They did the sin of the Chet HaEgel. Then they were able to do tshuva. When did they do tshuva? Yom Kippur. Literally, the Yom Kippur of the Chet HaEgel was the same day, the 10th of Tishrei. Now was Yom Kippur. Now, this very interesting is when the Ananei HaKavod came back. We'll speak about it soon. But the Ananei HaKavod came back for a few days after that the clouds of glory. They came back right after the Chet of the Egel. So what do we see over here? That the Jews sinned, they messed up, but they were able to sort of fix themselves back again. Which means their whole scary thought was, oh my gosh, if we go and we mess up, we're burnt, we're done, we're finished. But no, we see after Yom Kippur, we'll be like, no. If you mess up, you can still come back again. So now the Jews are saying, okay, listen, now we know the value of the Torah. Now we know it's amazing, how much it's really worth. We see it's an amazing specimen that we got. Now let's dance now let's have this man Simchatenu. Now let's dance for the Torah. Now we have Simchat Torah when after Sukkot. Why? Because that's after we messed up. This is when we really see the beauty of the Torah. And that's why we have it over, specifically now is when we dance for the Simchat Torah on Sukkot. Now we could do a small recap. We have over here, we said this is Zman Simchatenu. Why is it Zman Simchatenu? We have two things. We have a physical aspect and a spiritual aspect. On the physical aspect, we have that why is it Zman Simchatenu? Because we bring it into the shade. The Sukkah is known as the shade of Emunah, right? So we're going under God's Emunah. Everything is from God. Not only is everything from God, we realize that life is temporary. Life is temporary, then the physical world is nothing to sweat by. If it's nothing to sweat by, you're already living a happier life. That's in the physical sense. Now let's go to the spiritual sense. The spiritual sense, we have the Torah. But the Torah, what happens? Torah, 630 mitzvot. What happens if you mess up? God says, don't worry, there's tshuva. When you come and you do tshuva, and all of a sudden, what? You're also good on the spiritual side. Comes Sukkot. Sukkot is everything. We have the physical, we have the spiritual. Everything comes. It's amazing. What's not to be happy about? When is Man Simchatenu? On Sukkot. Not on Purim, not on Chanukah, not on Pesach, but what rather on Sukkot. That's when Sukkot is Man Simchatenu. Now, there is another reason to sort of explain that on the thing of was I right? Okay. I'm trying to read. There is also, so what I was speaking about before, and I want to just clarify, on the Ananei HaKavod. Ananei HaKavod, there was clouds of glory. Clouds of glory were literally clouds that were all surrounded all the Jews in the Midbar, and it protected them from like everything. Like it had a cloud in front of them that flattened the ground, killed all the scorpions. They had clouds on the sides, they had clouds in the back, they had clouds under it. It was literally like they were in a moving hotel, or whatever, however you could explain it. So these clouds of glory, when did they come back? They came back after Yom Kippur. They left when they did the sin of the Chet HaEgel, they left. When they did the sin of the Chet HaEgel, and then they came back when they did Tshuva. Now, there is a very interesting thing when you look at the Sukkot. In the Torah, it says 3 times Simcha, in referring to Sukkot. Number 1, in Deuteronomy, in Devarim, chapter 16, verse 14, it says V'samachta b'chagecha. You should be happy in your holiday. You should rejoice in your holiday. Then also in Devarim, in the same chapter, the next pasuk, chapter 16, verse 15, it says V'hayita ach sameach, and you will be joyous. And then again in Vayikra, chapter 23, verse 40, it says V'samachtem lefnei Hashem Elokechem shivat yamim. You will be rejoiced with God for 7 days. 3 times it refers to Sukkot as a time of simcha, a time of happiness. Now, what is this specifically? Why 3 times? Comes to Shvili Pinchas and he explains so beautifully. He says there are 3 types of sins. There is a chet, there's an avon, and there's a pesha. What's the difference? A chet is if, let's say, you sin unintentionally. By mistake, you made a mistake, you sinned, that's called a chet. Then you have avon. Avon is you sinned but on purpose. And then you have a pesha. Pesha is you sinned on purpose for a rebellious reason. Be like, I know it's a sin and I don't care, I'm doing it to spite God. That's a sin for pesha. So now, opposite those 3 things, we have 3 types of forgiveness 3 types of atonement on Yom Kippur. We have kapara, slicha, and mechila. We have kapara. I didn't even have to tell you. It says right in the tefillah of Yom Kippur. I'm going to read to you one line from the tefillah, and this way you'll be able to plug in everything in. We say before we do the al chet on Yom Kippur, it says v'chein yeh ratzon mefanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu shetechaper lanu al kol chatotenu. Kaper, a kapara, and kol and the chet. That's we have the kapara on the unintentional sins. Then it says v'tislach lanu al kol avonotenu. Forgive us, tislach, the other name of forgiveness, atonement, for our intentional sins. And then it says v'timchol lanu al kol peshoenu, and forgive us also on all our sins of our rebellious. So we had 3 levels of sins. Comes Yom Kippur, and we have this 3 levels of atonement. So what better time to be happy? Imagine you go into court and you're being judged on so many things, and you come back vindicated on all accounts. Right? Party time. Right? You celebrate. This is where the after party is, right after when you got vindicated. Comes Yom Kippur, we were judged on all 3 accounts. We were, not only were judged, we were vindicated. We were said, okay, don't worry about it, you're good. You did real tshuva, you did good tshuva, you're good. You have this 3 thing. That's why it comes specifically 3 different types of, the Psukim tell you, it tells you that you have to be happy on Chag HaSukkot. Why you have to be happy 3 times? Connect the 3 times of the 3 types of sins that we had over here. You with me so far? Okay. So now, that's one part that we sort of hopefully got a grasp on. The fact is to be happy. We have to be happy. Why? From the spiritual sense. We have to be happy from the physical sense, right? The spiritual sense, we have the tshuva, and we have the tshuva, the 3 types of tshuva for the 3 types of happiness, and we have from the physical sense that everything is temporary and everything is from God. You're sitting God in the shade of emunah. So therefore, you have the happiness. Now the question is, as we saw the topic, it says unity and happiness. Now what does achdut have to do with happiness? So let's see how we're going to plug that in together. So there's a very, very, very important, and it really needs a complete class in itself, probably, of just the happiness that you have to have on doing mitzvot. When you do a mitzvot, you are required to be happy with it. Right? And it says in the pasuk, also in Devarim, chapter 28, verse 47, do you know why so many bad things are happening to you? Because you didn't serve God out of happiness. Not because you didn't serve God out of happiness. And in fact, the Satan, one of its strongest fights that it uses is it puts you into depression. Because when someone's depressed, they don't gain anything. They don't learn. They're not able to focus. They're not able to gain spiritually. Depression is one of the strongest things that pulls a person down in a spiritual sense, also in a physical sense. So so this is why also the Arizal, he says, you know how he got, the Arizal was the biggest Kabbalist in the past, thousands of years. He lived about 500 years ago. You know how he said he got so big? Because he did all his mitzvot with happiness. That's how he reached such a high level. So now, if you want to know what a word really means, right? I was speaking about Aleph a little before. If you want to know what a word really means, you look for the first time it's written in the Torah. One of the character traits also. Also, if the letters, being that we're speaking about the Aleph before, the letters. If you want to know you look for the first time that it's written in the Torah. That letter, you could get a little bit of understanding. So Simcha, Sameach. What is the first time that word is written in the Torah? So you look at it. It's in Shemot chapter 4, verse 14. I'll give you the background. Moshe didn't want to go and speak he says, listen, he goes to God and says, listen, I'm going to speak in front of everybody on my lips. I have a speech deficit. How am I going to be able to speak then? So God says, don't worry, Aaron, your brother, is going to come to you, and he is going to do the speaking for you. And he says, don't worry, he's coming, and it says, v'samach bilibo. The first time it says is referring to Aaron. What does it mean, v'samach bilibo? If you look at Rashi over there, it says that Aaron was older, Moshe was younger. And you would think, okay, listen, why is Moshe the chosen one? I'm older, I should be the chosen one. That's not how Aaron said. Aaron said, you know what, I'm happy for him. The Samach Biloa means that he was happy for his younger brother, that he was getting the I guess more lead role, if you could say that, even though it says they were both equal in a sense. He was getting the lead role in this aspect. So we see over here that the first time the Torah speaks about happiness, it's not referring to happiness internally for you, it's happiness for somebody else. You want to know what true happiness is? True happiness is when you have happiness for somebody else, not for yourself. Making other people happy. And this, in essence, is Aaron. Aaron, we know, is Ohev Shalom ve'rodef Shalom. He is somebody who loved peace and chased after peace. Aaron was somebody who, if let's say two people are fighting, he would go over to, let's say, Mr. A and Mr. B were fighting. He would go over to Mr. A and say, hey, Mr. A, Mr. B feels really bad about what he did to you, and he really wants to come apologize. And Mr. A says, really? He really wants to come apologize? I says, you don't even know the half of it. He feels so bad that he wants to, it just feels terrible. And then Aaron goes over to Mr. B, and he tells Mr. B, he says, listen, Mr. A feels so bad of what he did to you. You don't know the half of it. He's up all night, he's crying, he wants to make up with you. And he says, really, Mr. A really wants to make up with me? And he says, you don't even know the half of it. And then he just leaves, and then they come back, and they'll be like, I'm so sorry. And be like, no, I'm so sorry. No, the wiser. And he would make people, would fix them up like that. Also, husband and wife. What are one of the main reasons why people are always fighting? Oh, she's going to apologize first. No, he's going to apologize first. No, I'm going to wait over here. I'm going to do it, And people, they don't even remember what they started fighting about. Even friends, two close friends, you ask them, I think this happens to me more in girls. You have people that are best friends, and then 2 years later, it'll be like, that's my worst enemy. I hate her and everything. I'm like, what happened? I didn't even want to tell you. Well, why? Because I don't remember, right? But usually, because you don't even know all the things that happen, but they separate that and you sometimes you really want to make up, but it's like, she's going to do it first, or he's going to do it first. And that pushes it. Aaron says, let me be the catalyst over here. He says, I'm sorry, Shalom Al Yisrael. Right? And they would go, and they would actually go, and they would have, they would make peace. And it says not only that, there were many children that were named in that time Aaron. You know why they named Aaron? Because Aaron was the guy who made the parents together. He was a peacemaker. He would walk around and greet everybody. People always felt bad to do a sin, because how would they look at Aaron, he's such a nice guy. He's so amazing. Everybody loved him. And that's why you look at his name. His name is Aleph, Hey, Reish, Nun. Right? So let's look at the Hey. Hey is 5. 5 is the middle of the tens. Reish is 200. You like the gematria, right? 200 is the middle of the numerical, because in Aleph Bet, the highest numerical value of a letter is 400. So 200 is the middle of the hundreds. Nun is 50, the middle of the tens. You have Aaron right in the middle of everything. What does that mean? Because that's what he was. He was in the middle of everything, putting everything together. What's the Aleph? He was doing it all for one God. He was doing it only for Avinu Shabbat. Aaron, his essence was Ohev Shalom v'rodef Shalom. His essence was bringing everybody together. His essence was the Achdut, was bringing everybody together. This is why, it's very interesting, when God says you want to accept the Torah, what do we say? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will listen. Be like, wait, hold up a second. So what's with we? I will do and I will listen. Why are you bringing your neighbor into the thing? Because you know what we said? No, we are coming all for one and one for all. Which means if one guy messes up, we take the hit for it. If another guy messes up, we also take the hit for it. But yet, when the Chet HaEgel came, when they did the sin of the golden calf, it wasn't like that. They said, why don't you go to your God? Which they're referring to the golden calf. They went from united to divided. So comes Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur comes, by the way, the Ananei HaKavod came because of Aaron. One of the reasons we have Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, was because of Aaron. Aaron, he was the guy who and we'll soon try to explain that. So,
I have a question. So
Yeah.
if everyone respected Aaron so much, why didn't they listen to him when they went to do Chet HaEgel?
you ever, there's sometimes when you know that there's something is right, but when you're too, it doesn't matter what somebody's going to tell you, your mind is set. I'll tell you let's say somebody goes and he's dating somebody, they're dating somebody, and they're so emotionally invested that even though they know it's a bad relationship and it's a little bit abusive, they're so emotionally in there already that they're like, we're just going to get married already, and what else, it's just too difficult the other way around. And you'll be surprised how many people, it's just like, that's why people they date for 7 years and they get divorced after 2 years. Because there's even though there's something wrong, you know that there's something wrong, there's not always you're going to listen to it. You know smoking is bad. You know that someone's on a diet knows that cake is bad. They know it, but they still want it, so they'll still do it. So just because you know the knowledge and somebody comes and tells you doesn't automatically mean that they'll listen to you. And Aaron also had to do it because somebody else, when it came to the Egel, said, hey, you guys are not allowed to do that, don't do that. They just chucked him they killed him. So Aaron says, okay, let's be a little smart over here. Let me try to delay them. So he tried to work on a different angle. But that's the whole thing in itself. So when we had the Ananei HaKavod because Aaron comes, so then you would think right after Yom Kippur, we did tshuva on the Chet HaEgel. You guys are with me so far? Good. We do the Chet of the Egel. We come back. We should get the Ananei HaKavod back. But the Ananei HaKavod didn't come back. When did it come back? Only once we started on the 14th. Only once we started, or on the 15th, I'm sorry. It was only once we started to build the Mishkan. What was the difference? It's because until then we were divided. We didn't have that. What comes to Mishkan, everyone says, okay, when there's a common goal, everybody gets together. We got to build a building fund. Okay, everybody get together, the whole thing, everybody's all together. We had to build a Mishkan, all of a sudden we came all together. Beforehand, we were Na'aseh v'nishma. After the sin of the golden calf, it was you go to your God. We were separated. When did we come back together? Only once that we came and we built the Mishkan. We had that unified goal. That's when did the Ananei HaKavod come back? Ananei HaKavod that came because of Aaron, who was known for unity, can only come back when we were united. When were we united? After when we started building Mishkan. That's why he came up there. That's why we take the 4 species, right? We have the Arba Minim. We have a Lulav. We have a Etrog. We have a Hadasim and a Arabaot. I should have brought. But let me explain. So there's something there's a taste and there's a smell. And you'll understand this in a second. Taste refers to Torah knowledge. Smell refers to good deeds. Etrog has a good smell and a good taste. This refers to Torah knowledge, which means you're Talmid Chacham, you know Torah, and you have good deeds. Then you have a lulav. A lulav comes from a date. A date has a taste but no smell. This refers to only Torah knowledge but no good deeds. Then you have hadasim. Hadasim are myrtle. Myrtle smells, people do besamim on it, right? It smells good, but don't eat it. It doesn't taste like anything, right? It has no taste, which means it has good deeds but no Torah. And then you have aravot, no smell and no taste, which means no good deeds and no Torah. We take all these are all representing people. We take there's somebody who knows a lot of Torah, and there's somebody who is also good deeds. And then there's somebody who only has one, and then somebody has only one the other one, and then somebody who has nothing. There's all different types of Jews in the world. We take it all together and we bind them all together. When you shake a lulav and a etrog, you have to hold them all together. Everything is together, while unified, united as one. That's what we're combining, we're bringing everybody together, no matter how far reach you are from Judaism. You come together and you put it together in the lulav and etrog. And that's why it's very interesting. The etrog, which represents the Torah and the good deeds, where's it next to? The aravot, the one who has nothing. It's not next to the guy it's the one who has nothing. That's the one that you put it next to. That's the one who says, no, we're going to put, this is a time for kiruv also. This is a time that you bring everybody into kiruv. This is something also very interesting. Listen to this. Besides that, I wrote it actually over here. Sukkah, right? Sukkah, is that without the vav? The vav is just a vowel. In order for a sukkah to be kosher, there's levels for it. Number one is if it's a samach, like it has all 4 walls. It has to be all completely enclosed. That's the best level. But let's say you can't do that. You can only have 3 walls. So no problem. 3 walls, like is also kosher. But let's say you don't have 3 walls. All you have is 2 walls and a little tefach. So that's also kosher. So what do we see over here? It's all about the flexibility. It's all about flexibility. It says, this is good, we're going to make it kosher. Is this kosher? No. Okay, so let's do it like over here. This is kosher? No. Then we go back to, it's all about the flexibility. It's all about Aaron, bringing that together, bringing the flexibility and getting along with everybody. There's something very interesting. So the hay over here, when you give somebody a hug, right? So when you give somebody a hug, if you look at it, it's almost like you're putting a hay with your hand. You have here 1, 2, and the little hay over here. So when you're going and you're giving somebody a hug, you're sort of bringing them into your, just like that shade of the sukkah, you're bringing them into your sort of dwelling place. Now it says, listen to this, I'm going to plug it all in together. Rav Pam, he explains like this. He says, the way that you're supposed to do is the way that Torah explains is you leave your permanent dwelling, which is your house, and you go into your temporary dwelling, which is the sukkah. So what happens, says Rav Pam, this is not only referring to in the physical sense, but also in your mind. People are always self-centered. They're always thinking about themselves. However, there are people that they're temporarily thinking about other people as well. They'd like to think about other people, and they try to do good deeds, but they're not always thinking about other people. They're mostly thinking about themselves. So their permanent dwelling place is in themselves, thinking of that. Their temporary dwelling self is thinking about other people. Says Rav Pam, says that you know what time of Sukkot is? Time of Sukkot is you get out of your permanent. Getting out of just thinking always about yourself, go into somebody else. Give that other person that hug. Give that other person, bring that other person in. Go into your temporary dwelling place for 7 days. Think about somebody else. If you think about somebody else, that's when you get the achdut. That's when you get the unity. There was once a very wealthy father had 3 boys, and he goes to his boys. He gathers them one day in his study. Right, he's in his nice robe, smoking a pipe, fireplace, whatever picture you want to make it. So he goes and he sits over there and he says, guys, I want you each to come think. I want you to tell me what's the most important thing in life. So, these guys went all to prep school. They're thinking, all right, take out their pads, making some graphs and charts, and then they put on their sweaters and their ties, and they come back and says, Father, obviously they're English. So they says, the first one says, I think money. Money is the best thing that's the number one. It's the most important thing. With money, you could buy social status. Money, you could buy anything with money. You could even look smart with money. Many people think they look smart with money, and many people, are not so smart about it, but they think they do. So he says the first one, money. The second kid gets up there and he says, Father, I disagree. And he says, no, rather it's what? It's education. He says if you have a good education, it builds a foundation for everything else. If you don't have a good education, it's nothing. The third kid gets up and he says, no, both of you are wrong. It is to build a fine family. If you build a nice, fine family, that is the most important thing. So the father, looks at all of them, and he says he takes out from his, treasure chest, he takes out a bunch of twigs, and he gives each one a twig. And he says, guys, please break it. And, no problem, they break it. Then he takes out each another batch, and this time, it's a bunch of twigs wrapped together and twined together. And he gives them each to each one of them, and he says, now you break it. And they try to, these are grown, they couldn't break it. He says, what's the difference? It's a bunch of little ones. You're able to break it so easily. He says, yeah, but when it's wound together, we can't. It's all stronger. I can't. And the father says, that is the strongest thing. That is the most important thing. Your guys are going to be going out. You're going to be getting married. You're going your separate ways. But the strongest thing that unites and that's the strength and the most important thing is unity. If you guys stick together, nothing can break you. If you guys go apart, then you're going to fall like a bunch of twigs. The most important thing in Judaism is unity, right? We know, this is one of the reasons we don't have the Beit HaMikdash. This is why also in the time of King David, there was Torah, there was everything, but we didn't win all the wars. Why didn't we win all the wars? Because we had Lashon Hara, we had gossip, we had all these things. In the time of Ahab, the time where there was so many bad, there was idol worship, rampant, but we didn't lose a single war. Why? Because we had unity. Unity is, if you have unity, you are indestructible. There's nobody that can break you down if you don't have unity, right? Nowadays, unfortunately, not only do we not have unity, that we get destroyed from people that are inside of us. From people inside of us is where we're coming down. So, the holiday of Sukkot is the holiday of unity. The holiday of unity is the holiday of simcha. When you're able to have happiness for somebody else, that is the ultimate simcha. That is the ultimate, and that's why, what's all relationship? Relationship is giving. When you give is when you get stronger. When you give for somebody else is when you get that happiness. True happiness is to give. This is what we're doing on Sukkot. We're bringing everybody together. Not only do we have happiness in the physical sense, in the spiritual sense, now we also have happiness as a whole, in Klal Yisrael. Now, there's something very interesting that I wanted to... So far, so clear? We're good? Okay, no questions? Wasn't so bad, right? Okay, so now there is, I'm getting warmed up, relax. So there's a very, very interesting, question that comes up. It says that when, after, at the end of the days, God is going to, the non-Jews are going to see how much each mitzvah is worth, and they're like, listen, God, this is not fair. He says, you gave the Jews so many mitzvot. Of course, look how many there are to you. You didn't give us anything. So, and what God is fair, says, you know what, fine, I'll give you one right now. Let's see how you do with it. What does God give them? God gives them the mitzvah of sukkah. He gives them a mitzvah of sukkah, and they put them in the sukkah. And it says, okay, listen, you want to do a mitzvah? Do it right now. So, all right, let's do it. That's awesome. pack up, all the brothers go in there, they sit in the sukkah over there, and then God takes the sun out of its like shade, and it makes it so hot that the non-Jews come out and they give it a kick and be like, enough of this, how are we supposed to do this mitzvah? And they go. And that's how the Chazal explain the story of what's going to happen in the future. And it's obviously it's a question. It'd be like, it doesn't make any sense over here. First of all, if it's so hot, we just learned that even the Jews could leave it. What's the big deal? And why specifically sukkah are we bringing in over here? So Rav Chaim of Sanz, he explains this in a very interesting mashal, another parable. He says like this. He says one time there was falsehood, literally shekel, falsehood, Mr. Falsehood, the guy who was in charge of all the lying, and he met Mr. Evil Inclination, Satan. Right, so they met. They greet each other. How's everything? Right, obviously falsehood lied. Satan was trying to make it. Whatever. It was, Shalom Aleichem. He goes over there and he says, he sees that the Satan is in a terrible mood. And so the falsehood, goes up to him and says, "What's up? What's going on? Why are you in such a bad mood?" He says, Yom Kippur just finished. Now we have Sukkot. He says, "You don't understand." He says, "You know how much I have to fight on Sukkot? You have all these people. They come in with the ships loads of lulavim, etrogim, and you have people over there that they're sitting and they're looking and they're trying to make the best etrog best." I saw there's a cute little picture that was going around. We see a bunch of guys on their cell phones, looking at that, really close to their cell phones, and then you see a bunch of Hasidim with their esrogim looking really close like that on the esrogim. So you have all the non-Jews doing with that, but the Jews, you look at it, you go to any esrog shop, everybody's all of a sudden diamond merchants. Right? They take off their glasses, they whip out these bifocals things, and they come in there, they put their microscope to look for everything. They take etrogim so seriously, they look at it to make it sure that it's most beautiful. So he says, I'm getting killed over here. Look at what they show God, how much they love His mitzvot. I'm getting destroyed over here. So the Satan says, the falsehood said, listen, I have a proposition for you. He says, the shipment is coming in in the ocean. Just sink the shipment. If you sink the shipment, they're not going to have anything to do there. So the Satan says, that's amazing. Thank you very much. And he goes and he sinks the shipment. He sinks the shipment, and a few weeks later, he goes and they meet up again. So the falsehood goes to the Satan and says, so how did it go? He says, you ruined me. He says, I didn't understand why I even listened to you. He's like, what are you talking about? Did you do my advice? Did you sink the ship? Yeah, I sank everything. They couldn't find a single etrog. He says, what's the problem? So the problem was that they bothered them so much that they didn't have an etrog. They really wanted to do it so badly. Now there's a law machshava k'maaseh, which means if you want to do a mitzvah, but you can't do a mitzvah, but you really wanted to do a mitzvah, you get rewarded as if you did it. So he says, they wanted to do it so badly, so they got rewarded as if they did it. He says, beforehand, when I have at least I had their ego I could play with, because everybody would come to me and be like, how much you pay for yours? Yeah, look at mine. I got a gartel on this, and there's all the lingo that they have over there, and this one's more yellower, this one looks like a tower, this one looks like the Twin Towers, and whatever it is that they're going to come in, and they all show off to each other. So even though it's a mitzvah and it's great, but when you're showing off, it brings it down. He says, now, how am I supposed to deal with that? He says, there was no showing off, everyone's brokenhearted, everybody just wanted to do it, and they got rewarded as fully as they did it. Now I want to explain this idea. It's by the way, it's an unbelievable idea that this idea is so powerful. Which means let me explain it beforehand, and then I'll explain the details of it in a minute. You have if somebody really wants to do something and they cannot do it due to circumstances beyond their control, they get rewarded as if they did it. That is an unbelievable ideology. That's awesome. That's like, I tried, but I couldn't do it, so don't worry about it. Here's 100 anyways on your test. That's like, so when somebody, let's say, comes up, let's speak about it for a man first. A man comes up after 120, and they tell him, did you set times? Kavata itim la Torah. Did you set times to learn Torah? So, which means every man is supposed to set times every single day that he's learning Torah. So the guy says, what am I supposed to do? I had to support a family. I had to work. So they said, okay, let's see what you did when you were not working. What were you doing when you were not working? And they see, he's playing video games, he's watching TV, he's doing this thing. So he's like, you obviously didn't want to. If somebody goes and he sees, like right after he comes learning and he helps with the family, he goes and sits and learns in Shiur Torah, it really means that the whole day he really wanted to learn Shiur Torah, but he just couldn't. So what does God do? God makes it as if the whole day he was learning Torah. Because you really wanted to do it, you just couldn't do it. But if at the end of the day you're sitting there and playing, you're showing that you didn't really want to do it in the beginning with. You didn't want to do it, you're getting reward for nothing. The same thing is like women use this example, married women in particular use this example a lot. They say, davening, a woman is required to pray. But they say, listen, when you have children, obviously your first responsibility is your children. You're not going to sit there crying in Shemona Esrei, meanwhile the baby is screaming and crying, falling down the stairs, and you're in the middle of, in your spiritual world. That's not what you're supposed to do. But what problem is that they use this as an example. They use it for example, be like, I'm a woman, I don't have to daven. But like, your kids are married already, no one's at your home. What do you mean? You don't have there's no excuse. And they really don't have an excuse. They really need to go and they pray. They come up to heaven after 120 and they say, all right, did you pray every single day? And they said, I had children. He says, yeah, for like 20 years. What happened to the other 80 years? Where were you? You didn't pray at all the other time when you're single. If let's say you have kids, but they're out in school, and you have a few minutes to pray, why didn't you pray? If you really prayed, then every time that you didn't pray, but you really wanted to pray, you got a reward as if you prayed. But if you didn't pray when you could have prayed, that means you never even wanted to pray to begin with. Got it? That's an amazing. So where is the first time that this? Now we're going to start pulling everything together from Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. We're going to try to plug everything together.
Yeah, what's prayer have to do with Sukkot?
No. So that's just an example that I use. It's just an example that I use. Yeah. So now, where is the first time that we saw this idea that if you really want to do something but you can't do it, it counts as if you did it. So it comes to Rosh Hashanah. Let's backtrack a little bit to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar. One of the reasons why we blow the shofar is to remind us that the Akedat of Yitzchak. Yitzchak was supposed to go on Akedah. He was supposed to go and get slaughtered. And God says to Abraham, don't do it. I got you right in time. No cutting. So he said, please, a little bit. I said, no, nothing. And he says, all right, what am I supposed to do? So he took Yitzchak off the thing, and he looked, and he saw a ram caught in the thorns was his horn. So he took that, and he slaughtered him instead of Yitzchak. So now what we do is we blow the shofar to remind God that Abraham shechted Yitzchak and Akedat Yitzchak. The obvious question is, that's not what it reminds of. It reminds us that Abraham didn't shecht Yitzchak. If you want to remind us something, put like a knife on the table, put something on it. Why are we blowing a horn? That's something that just proves that he was not sacrificed on it. It's just the opposite. It doesn't prove anything. So understand the question? So the answer is that, first of all, there's a very interesting in Yishtabach, for people who are familiar with the prayer. In Yishtabach it says we say Habochel b'shirei zimra. Habochel b'shirei zimra. It literally it makes so much sense because it's like Habochel chooses. B'shirei zimra is the two of the same language of song. So it's like double language. Why? What's the double language? So the Rav Simcha Banim of Peshischa explains this like this, and he says that when somebody goes and, let's say a real religious Jew, he goes and he prays, and he finishes praying, or she finishes praying, and they finish praying, they're like, you know what? I could have prayed better. I could have concentrated just a little bit better. I could have been able to focus a little bit more. And they feel so bad. All they want to do is just pray again because they want to do it better. But they can't because they already prayed already. So it bothers them so much, but that they want to do it. Comes God, b'shirei, if you've ever been to like Chassidish Tish, which is like a Chassidish Rebbe, there's something called shirayim. Shirayim means the rabbi eats something and everyone takes the remnants of it. Shirayim is the remnants of it. Habocher b'shirei zimra. God says, you know what I'm going to take? I'm going to take not in the actual prayer, I'm going to take in the remnants of the prayer. That prayer that you're so broken that you wanted to pray again, I'm going to take that and count it as if you did it again and you did it perfect. Because that's what I'm going to count. I'm going to count the actions, the deeds that you wanted to do but you couldn't do it as if you did do it. This is also the essence of tshuva. Tshuva is the same idea. Tshuva, it says in the Gemara in Kiddushin, it says in the Gemara in Kiddushin that says, Yashav velo avar avera notim lo schar k'oseh mitzvah. If somebody goes and doesn't do a sin, he's tempted or she's tempted to do a sin, and they overcome it, they get rewarded as if they did a mitzvah. So after they do this sin, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed up that mitzvah. I messed it up. I really wanted to do that mitzvah. Comes tshuva and says, no problem. When you do tshuva, it's counted as if you did that mitzvah and you didn't do the sin. So this is the same idea where you want to do something, but you didn't do it, or you messed it up, or you're doing it, backtrack it, but you really wanted to do it, it's counted as if you did it. The same the idea of machshava k'maseh. Where does it come with? The first time over here with Abraham. Because how do we know that it came from Abraham? Abraham had this scenario over here. He was with his son over here, his best favorite son, right? And he was like, he's going to kill the only thing that he and his wife worked together and tried to achieve for 130 somewhat years, 137 years. They're sitting over there. So they're coming, they're like, okay, what are we supposed to do? We have to cut him. And then God told him, says, free hall pass, don't worry about it. No, you don't have to cut him, go on. A normal father would be like, come on, let's go before God changes his mind again. And zoom out of there as fast as you can. But Abraham was like, no, but I came here to do the will of God. I need to do the will of God. I need to do it. And he says, no, you can't do anything. He says, can I at least get the ram over there? He says, okay, do the ram. So by him doing the ram, he's like thinking, okay, I'm shechting the ram, I'm sacrificing the ram as if I'm sacrificing Yitzchak, which means he really wanted to listen to God. Not that he wanted to kill his son, but he wanted to listen to God. And he wanted to listen to so badly that even when he got an excuse to leave, he's like, I'm not leaving yet until I actually do something that because I really want to listen to God. So he goes and he listens, he goes and he takes the ram. We come and what do? We blow the shofar. we tell God, listen, he says, maybe we've been bad. Maybe we didn't listen, but look, we really always wanted to do good. Look, just like our forefather, Abraham. He always just wanted to do your will. He always wanted to do your will, so too we only want to do your will. And we come and we blow the shofar in reminiscence. This is the perfect example of Kedat Yitzchak, because this is even better than sacrificing. This is just showing that everything we want to do is we want to do it for God. This is the idea of machshava k'maaseh. This is the first time that you did it. The first time that we have that in Torah is by Abraham, where he really wanted to do something and shows God that not only did he, even though he couldn't do it, he was able to do it. Good so far? With me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now, all right. Now I want to finish with this thought. So there is a. Let me answer that. We didn't answer yet the question. The question we asked beforehand is, what's up with the non-Jews? They come and they put in the sukkah and they get so hot. And the answer is very simply. I slipped in over there. I don't know if you heard it. It says when the non-Jews go out, they kick the sukkah. They're like this. What is this stupid mitzvah? What do we need this mitzvah for? The difference between a Jew and a non-Jew is a non-Jew leaves the sukkah thinking, oh my gosh, I really want to go. I can't believe it's raining. I want to sit in the sukkah. I want to do the sukkah. I want to do it so badly. What is happening? The Jews get rewarded as if they did do it. When a Jew cannot do a mitzvah, but they really want to do it, they get rewarded as if they did do it. The non-Jews, they gave it a kick, as showing, I don't want this. So they don't want to do it, so it says, you see over here? Because you didn't want to do it, that's it. So now, not only do you don't get reward, because you could have said, okay, you see, I just showed you that I really did want to do a mitzvah all along. So God says, no, I just showed you that you never wanted to do a mitzvah. You thought everything was stupid. You kicked it. If you would have left the sukkah wanting to do it, that would have been a different story. That's how Jews are. When do we get the mitzvah sukkah? Right after Yom Kippur. Right after we do the tshuva. Right after we put in our mind that, Akedat Yitzchak, the shofar, we have all these things going on, that it's telling us everything that we do, we're doing it for God. We're doing it, we really want to do it. The whole thing of tshuva is I want to listen to God. Comes Yom Kippur, after Yom Kippur, God says, what am I going to, the mitzvah we'll put right inside is sukkah over here. Sukkah is the perfect mitzvah, because this shows that when you do it and you can't, and you really want to do it and you can't do it, you'll get rewarded as if you did do it. As opposed to the non-Jews, we're going to give them the same test over here, specifically sukkah, because I know my children are going to pass this one, because this is the thing that they've been living for the past 10 days. This is something that they've been dealing with for the past, this is what their essence it became. Okay, good? All right, so let me finish with this final thought. It's getting hot. You guys are not in the spiritual levels yet. All right. So now, I heard this as something very amazing from Rabbi Yitzchak Fangel. So he explains like this. He says, even though we have three things that happen to us in the Midbar, three things that happen to us in the desert that are in reference to people like Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. We have the man that they ate. That is in the Sukkot, in the merit of Moshe. Then, and we're going to be finished, guys, in about 5 minutes. And then we have the Be'er of Miriam, which was literally, it's called the well of Miriam, came from the Sukkot of Miriam. And then we have the clouds of glory, the Ananei HaKavod, which we said is in the Sukkot of Aaron HaKohen. So there's something very interesting. The Chazal tell us that it's not only them that gave the Sukkot, it's also Abraham. What happened was Abraham got his Brit Milah, right, when he was 100 years old. Right? He got a Brit Milah, he was 100 years old. Came the third day, which is the most toughest date post surgery that he had. I'm always shifting from this thing. Okay, he has the third day, which is the most toughest day that he had for his Brit Milah. He goes and God makes the sun so hot so that, because his whole essence, he wanted to bring guests. He had an open tent on all sides. That his thing, he wanted to bring guests. Abraham, the way that what he did is he brought everybody together. And when they, free hospitality, free sleeping, free food, everything they want. And all he'll do, he'll give you kiruv. He'll teach you about one God and one this. And when they came to pay, he says, no, you don't need to pay. Just listen to this, thank God instead. That was his way of doing kiruv. So his whole thing was chesed, milat chesed. He was the father of kindness. So he's sitting over there, and the third day, God makes the sun so hot, so nobody could bother him, so he could sit and rest. But what does he do? He looks outside. No, he says, I need to find somebody. I need to do chesed. If somebody's whole mentality is doing kindness, that's what he wants to do. He wants to do chesed so badly. So he looks, no one's coming. So God says, we'll send them 3 malachim, 3 angels. And 3 angels came dressed like Arabs. He sees these 3 Arabs coming to them, and he says, he runs over to them, he says, come. And he did 3 things for them. Number 1, he baked them cakes. Because he baked them cakes, we got the man. Then he says, here, take some water. Because he gave him some water, we got the Be'er Shel Miriam. And then he says, here, sit under the tree. Sit under the shade of the tree. Because we got the shade of the tree, we got the clouds of glory, which is also considered the shade. Now, the obvious question is to be like, okay, well, I just told you it's from Abraham, but we said also it's already for Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So Rabbi Yitzchak Fanger explains this beautifully. He says, there's 2 aspects that you need for everything. He says, number 1 is you need to plant the seeds. You need to plant the seeds of something, and then you need the good conditions for success. You need to have everything else that comes after that. There's two aspects for everything. He says, if you wouldn't have had Avraham, we wouldn't have gotten everything. If you had you needed both of them together. Avraham was the one who planted this idea that we're going to get all these things when we come to the desert. Now, the obvious question is Avraham, he was known for chesed. He did chesed for that's his life. Why do these three things stick out more than anything else that he ever did? And the answer is that he had so many reasons and so many excuses not to be out that day. Third day, he was 100 years old, it was hot. He had 101 excuses to stay at home and, sit under the fan, in the shade, and, just rest. But he did it. It was so hard for him, he went out and he did it. That, when you get the real biggest reward and when you're planting seeds for your future generations, each one of you, when you get older, you're planting, when you're planting seeds, when thing is so tough, when something is so hard to do, and you go against all odds and you push it, that's when you're planting the seeds for the future generations, and you don't know when that's going to sprout. And you don't know when that's going to come in. When something is so hard, Abraham was so hard that day to do it. But when he got the biggest reward, when he planted the strongest seeds, is when it was the toughest. When it's the toughest, that's when he planted it, and that's when he reaped the biggest benefits. Because of that, his children saved was through were able to go through the desert. Now the obvious question is that we'll end with this thought, is that when somebody goes and God's sending the Jews to the desert. So obviously we're going to need food and we're going to need water. So we need those two things. That is why, if you realize, it's not called the Chag of the Man or the Chag of the Be'er Miriam. It's called the Ananei HaKavod. You know why? Because food we needed, the man we needed, water we needed. We didn't need the Ananei HaKavod. Ananei HaKavod God gave us. He says, you know what, I love you. Just take this extra thing. I love you so much. That's what we come to Sukkot. You know what we say, look how much God loves us. He gave us this Ananei HaKavod even though we didn't really need it. I mean, we ended up, we used it to the full extent of everything. But it was like that extra bonus that God just loves you. So let's do a quick recap and we'll finish with this. We came and we said, the question we started off is, how is this Chag HaSukkot? How is this supposed to be Chag HaSukkot? And the answer is, it's Chag HaSukkot for more than one reason. Number one, from the physical side. From the physical side, you realize that this life is temporary. You go into your temporary dwelling place. When you realize life is temporary, you're not sweating the small stuff. You're not smelling the small stuff. You're living a happier life. Now let's go flip on the other side, the spiritual side. The spiritual side is that we have the Torah. 613, that's crazy. It's so hard to be a Jew. But you think about it, okay, wait, we just had Yom Kippur. Even though it's so hard and you mess up, you could still fix yourself. When you could still fix yourself, you could still come back and you could still do. You could still become that one a full part of it. So you have here the simcha from both ends, from the spiritual and from the physical. And then what does unity have to do with anything? Unity, if you want real happiness, the real happiness that you have is only by you being happy for somebody else. Just like Aaron, which was the whole essence of Ananei HaKavod, came because of Aaron. So because of him, because of the unity, that's why we have the simcha, the Zman Simchatenu. Zman Simchatenu is because of Aaron, because of the Ananei HaKavod, and it happens to be also right after Yom Kippur, and everything walks in. We're so happy. We did the kapara of the Avon and the Chet and the Pesha. We got forgiven for those three things. That's why we have the three things for the Zman Simchatenu of Chag HaSukkot. And B'ezrat Hashem, this holiday should be an amazing, amazing happiness for everybody. Should have a happiness up that you've never been happy in your whole life. And B'ezrat Hashem, you should also know, it's a very interesting thing, is that amount of happiness that you can muster in this. You're sort of building a tank of reservoir of happiness for the rest of the year. The amount of happiness that you bring on Sukkot is going to sail you through to the rest of the year. So B'ezrat Hashem, you should have an utmost Chag Zman Simchatenu, and you should have an unbelievable of happiness this entire time, and B'ezrat Hashem for the rest of your lives as well.